Hello, everybody. Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF, a very special audio version of In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is a former child actor. He was turned into a voice actor. Don't tell Arthur Burkhart, he hates that term. He started out as a child actor on Sesame Street and also in Little House on the Prairie. He then moved into voiceover, acting on shows such as Disney's Adventures of the Gummi Bears and also apparently the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, according to IMDb. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. You've done your homework, Amber.
What? How? What was it for? I've got to ask quickly. What was it actually? Yeah, go on then ask. What was it for exactly? Was it just like ADR pickups, or did you actually voice Christopher Robin in some outside segments? Because it was basically a compilation of like the past Winnie the Pooh films, all released under
Yeah,
one
right,
media.
right, right. So back in the 70s, long before you were born, we uh they had what they call Disney's storyteller records, which were cassettes and record albums, and they would
Ah.
convert some of their feature films and small animation into these like books that children could read. You'll know it's time to turn the page when you hear Tinkerbell go like this. You'd hear stuff like that, and
Yeah.
uh, Sterling Holloway was friends with my grandfather, as the story goes. Sterling being the voice of Winnie the Pooh. I had met him as a kid, 6 years old, and he asked my grandfather, "Does your son do a British accent?" My grandfather and my father were both from Oklahoma, so what the heck do they know about a British accent? So without even blinking, my grandfather said, "Of course he does. I'm 6 years old. I'm from New Mexico. What would I know about a British?" So my dad and my grandfather worked with me for months trying to get trying to get a British accent. I made Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins sound wonderful. I was horrible. But because I guess I had the blessing of Mr. Holloway, I showed up to the audition and I got it. They were doing a younger Christopher Robin for these Storyteller Records or the series that they were doing. I couldn't even read. They had to whisper, my lines to me when I was. Rec- we recorded them in a horseshoe shape, the classic Disney for voiceovers, and we recorded them there in Burbank. And
Ooh.
so it was for not the movies or the film or a TV series. It was for these storyteller records that Disney was releasing.
Right, I see. Oh, that
Yeah.
explains a lot. My guest
Yeah.
then eventually moved on to voicing for commercials for brands such as Jell-O, Coke, McDonald's, and has also voiced adverts, well, I should say commercials because we're using American terms here, for companies
We
such as
know. Yeah.
Crayola, Mercedes-Benz, Dollywood, Sandals Resorts, Visa, and so many more. He has worked with some of the best people, and I'm talking about Dawes Butler, June Foray, Corey Burton, Frank Welker, all these people, and I still
Yeah.
have no idea what he looks like. My guest is the legendary Connor Quinn. Hi,
Well, thank you. How can I follow that? Thank you. Good night, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Good
Connor.
night. I
Thank you for
mean,
watching. Don't forget to
yeah,
like, comment, subscribe.
right. Right. I did so many adverts. Thank you so much. I appreciate, thank you so much for that introduction, Amber. I can't
You're
possibly live
welcome.
up to this. Yes.
You're welcome. Honestly,
And
it's such an honor to talk. Sorry.
well, it's an honor. I was just going to say it's an honor to talk to you, and I know we've been planning this for a long time, so it's finally it's finally great to basically sit down with the podcast and interview with you.
Yeah, definitely. And like just the amount of stories you've told me over Twitter and stuff like that of you working with people, like you've got a signed photo from Dawes Butler, and just it's crazy because like you've done all of this work, but there isn't much information about you online, which leads me to
Ye-
the question I've got to ask you now.
right.
Are you a real person?
No, but I've played one on TV. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, absolutely. When I was coming up, which is the generation after Corey, basically, he taught,
Mm-hmm.
kind of mentored quite a few of us after that, or not quite a few, but a few. Uh, he was mentored by Dawes, and then I was mentored by Dawes and Corey. And
Mm-hmm.
so the generation that I was in, which was really starting to go full time about 1986, 87, they were looking for utilitarian type of voice people. So they never wanted, they never wanted me for this voice. They always wanted to know, can you match this voice or do ADR for this? And so I covered a lot of people on a lot of projects. And at that time, uh, there was no IMDb, there was no internet, so we didn't get credit for a lot of stuff that we did. Even on the actual, end credits in the commercials, or the project. But it kept me busy. It paid my way, and I enjoyed it a lot more than the on-camera stuff I had done as a child. I was really, as I told you pre-interview, that I found my tribe in voiceover. That was my calling.
Yeah, yeah, and I've obviously got to ask. I did watch a few episodes of the Sesame Street episodes you were in, and honestly, they don't really mention the kids' names a lot, so I couldn't
No,
really tell which character you were. So
yeah, yeah.
I just guessed and just said, oh, that kid's probably Connor or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, look for
How,
a blonde-haired kid. My hair was so white, I may have been albino. I mean, I was so pale and had freckles. I was just an everyday kid. I was not a James Dean or a Johnny Depp looking guy. I was just a normal looking dweeb kid and that got me work in the 70s.
excuse me. I recall in the first episode that there was like a really light blonde boy in one of the segments, but he had like sort of curly hair. I don't think
That
that might have been that was you.
it may have been, yeah, because they did, for different projects, especially commercials. Sesame Street was really good about just being real. They didn't really do anything with your hair, but it could be that I may have done a commercial where they had done that to my hair, and so uh, within that same week, I was on Sesame Street and probably still had the perm basically. So it may have been. Um,
Oh.
yeah, I know for a number of years, early 70s or mid 70s, I was on the intro, just a really quick glimpse of me playing with some kids on the intro at the time. I think we were with Big Bird, of course, shot in New York, but you know, it's just so pleasurable. I've got so many memories of doing that, but at that time, it's hard for someone of your generation to realize, now that we carry a camera everywhere we go. Back then, you didn't want to be like a fan, so you would have to have taken a 35 millimeter camera with you everywhere, and nobody did that. So
Yeah.
there's just publicity shots that the on-set photographer took, and mainly that was for the Muppets and for the of course the celebrities, Susan or Bob or Mr. Hooper. But occasionally, there's a few where I made my way into it, and uh, I think on my YouTube channel there's a commercial. They had taken Bob and several of us kids, and we performed for a Burger King commercial, and you can see me in the very back behind him, and I was just overjoyed because Bob, who didn't love Bob? I mean, he was, so happy and so many songs. So I was glad to do it for Burger King, which was funny because at the same time I was doing a million McDonald Land commercials, uh, and I had been doing that for like 5 years as a child. So I was doing both McDonald's and Burger King at the same time, which is a conflict of interest.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, just like I'm looking, I just remembered that Emilio and Bob, they passed away in 2022, and Bob was on the show from like the very start or something until 2016. And then Emilio joined in
Yeah,
1971 all the way till 2016. So like the chance that
absolutely.
you were with the just wow. I remember like sort of the period of like Bob's death, and then everyone was like, "Oh yeah, we just lost Emilio as well." It was really
It was
sad. I
it,
mean,
it was horrible. Yeah, and Bob, he and I maintained, just like me and Carol Spinney, and even a little bit of Jim Henson, maintained contact by letters. Of course, there was no internet, so that was our passion back then. It was writing letters. So I have lots of letters from all those guys, from Jim and Jerry, and um, also from Carol and from Bob. One of our last conversations, he had emailed, or not emailed me, he wrote a letter. And in it, he was saying that, what I'd forgotten about, he had called all of us kids on Sesame Street sesame seeds, that we would grow up to be real
oh,
people. And so he always referred to us as his sesame seeds. And, it was like an inside joke, but it was sweet. It was just like, so they were just a wonderful family. They still are. I still do a lot of things for Disney. Well, for the Muppets and Sesame Street in particular. I do a lot of
Wow.
promos and stuff like that. So, you know, you have to think, I've been working with Sesame Street since 1977. That's all. I should be
Wow.
retired, Amber. I should be retired.
Oh my gosh, just like I'm literally just thinking. I had a question and it's just completely gone from my mind. I think I'll try and remember. Oh yes, that's what I was thinking. You said about you were in the intro of Sesame Street in the 70s with Big Bird and stuff. The only thing that springs to mind is that picture of Big Bird running and there's like children in front of him and the caption is something like the children are fast but Big Bird is faster and then it says obviously the 1845 on the screen, which is obviously the numbered episode. And then someone was like,
Right.
what happened in the year 1845? Oh, that's not the year, that's his kill streak.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't understand that. Even as a kid, I didn't understand what that number was until much later. But we shot so many things all the time, even when we were really not filming for Sesame Street. They would have us out remotely with a B unit team, just shooting wild stuff, us playing in the playgrounds and us running and stuff like that. And a lot of the time, of course, since they didn't have to hide anything with Carol being Big Bird, he was in a lot of those, him and Snuffy, and we'd be running and playing with those characters. And I just remember, in New York with so many people around, they would have to cordon off the street or the playground because so many people, at that time Big Bird was huge, literally huge, but also huge as a brand. And so many people just wanted to talk to Big Bird, and so they had to cordon it off, and they had to have security out there for because he was it was like the Beatles had arrived. It was a really something.
I mean, I still can't believe the whole story about Carol Spinney. That he was what was it? I'm trying to think. He was scheduled to go on the same space shuttle Challenger, the one that uh, was destroyed in 1986, the one that killed those
Oh,
7 crew
my
members.
God.
He was meant to go on that as Big Bird, and it was meant to be televised.
I didn't
And
even know
then,
that. That's the first I've heard of that, Amber. That is just absolutely shocking. Well,
yeah,
that's horrible. Yeah.
it's
What
it
an
said it.
icon.
I'll tell you, like it says that he because his Big Bird suit wouldn't fit inside the aircraft.
Of course. Yeah, no, there's no way. I mean, I don't think people, unless they've seen Big Bird in real life, they don't have any just like how a Muppet feels. What does a Muppet feel like? I mean, that sounds bizarre, but the tactile feel, they don't feel quite like what you think they do. And Big Bird is not as small. He's much bigger. He looks smaller on television. And I just remember they had such great care as a child. I didn't know Carol was in the suit. I knew Carol, and I would see him with his, famous leggings on, but I just thought he was a fan of Big Bird. I thought
Yeah,
Big Bird as a 6-year-old, I thought Big Bird was real. I thought Ernie and Bert were real. And that's what Jim wanted, us to talk to the character, not to the puppeteer or
yeah,
Muppeteer. And so I just remember they took very good care in that the children, we never saw Big Bird undress, because that would just been horrific to see, them put the top on Carol, and it would just break apart that image of Big Bird being a real person. I really thought he was a real thing. And for the
yeah.
most part, I thought for some reason I thought he was female. For the longest time as a child, I thought he was a female. I
I
didn't
mean, to be
know.
fair, I kind of see where you come from.
Yeah, I did. I mean, yeah, I didn't know. So when that was clarified, it didn't change anything, but it's just, how you put things in boxes, because we learned as children, or especially in the 70s, you categorize everything. And that's not a healthy behavior either. It's just like, just accept things the way they are and move on. But
Yeah.
the society of the 70s was so much different in the 80s. So you had to put everything in its box.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
we may talk about later, but, me being a gay person, coming out, just that was unheard of in the 70s and 80s, because that would kill your career.
Wait, you're
And
gay?
I am gay. In
I
fact, I have a
never knew
card saying
that.
that I'm gay.
I never knew that.
You didn't know that?
Awesome.
Yes,
No.
well, yes, I am. And, I remember 1980, we were shooting
Mhm.
a commercial for The Empire Strikes Back, which was going to be released in '81 for the toys
Hmm.
for Kenner. And there was a bunch of us kids, and they had picked a house probably in the San Fernando Valley, and we were shooting at someone's house. And they were filming us just playing with these new characters that which I of course wanted, but we couldn't have because, they were prototypes and that type of thing. So
Yeah.
I just remember when that was done, normally we had handlers that, my agent was really good about having us handlers so that we were never alone. We were always taken, we've talked about that, the 70s and 80s was a really weird time, and it was really hard for child actors to be treated fairly and safely.
Yeah.
I was fortunate that my agent, we were in good hands and were never left alone. This one time, I didn't have a handler that day. They were running late, so when the commercial shoot finished, I remember one of the grips. He's like this 40-year-old guy. He called me over, and I'm at that time I'm probably 9 or 10. I'm 10, I think. And he said, "Hey, come here." And I something was telling me, that's something's weird about this. I had never had a 40-year-old guy talk to me like that. And I said, what do you need?" And he said, "Come here." I said, "Come here." And he's real forceful. And I thought, oh my God, something's weird about this. So I approached him and I asked him what's wrong. And he said, "Hey, I watched you shooting this commercial, and I think that I think you're gay." Well, in
Mm.
the '70s, for one, I'm 10 years old, so I barely know how to tie my shoes, and it just put the fear of God down my spine because nobody had ever said that to me, and I didn't even, at 10 years old, I'm still sorting out all kinds of feelings, and I had no idea. And I knew that it was true, but I didn't wanna admit it because that was not the thing then. It was very dangerous to be out, especially as a kid, and you're in entertainment. That's very dangerous. So
Yeah.
I said, "Well, no, I like girls." And I was trying to think of everything my straight friends had said. So I like cars, and I like football and deer hunting and carburetors. I was trying to think of anything that, would prove to this guy that I'm straight. And he's
Yeah.
like, he wasn't buying. He said, "No, no, no, no. I think you're gay." And so this really inappropriate conversation. And so he left. He didn't do anything wrong to me or anything. He just left. And later I was telling my agent when I was in her office about it. And she was like, who was this? That's so inappropriate. This 40-year-old guy talking to you in this manner. And she knew that I was gay. I mean, she'd been around me. She was almost like my mom, but she wasn't pushing the issue. But she said something to me that day, and it's very controversial. A lot of, friends of mine and people I've met that I've told the story to, they're come down hard on her, but she was doing it for my survival. She said, "I don't know if you're gay or not, and it's fine if you are. It's absolutely fine. You shouldn't feel guilty about it. But
Yeah.
do you like doing TV series? Yes. Do you like doing voiceover? Yep. And you like commercials? Yep. Well, if you like doing all that and you are gay, you need to hide it because they won't hire you if they know you're gay. Do you understand me?"
Mm.
And God, it was like I grew up at that day at age 10, I became a man because I was like, now all the ideas of childhood just melted away. It's like now I have to deal with reality. So from that day forward, I felt like an actor always pretending to be straight and then going to the set doing whatever they needed me to do. Um,
Yeah.
because I felt like I was hiding a secret. But she was really protecting me. She was just saying it's okay to be gay. But it's like at that time, there was so few people that were out. I know there's controversy surrounding Ellen, but she did a lot for the gay community when she came out. It was like, okay, then it's okay. And then, everybody suspected Elton John, and he started being more open about it, and little by little, it just started opening up. But at that time in the '80s, it was not okay.
Yeah.
So it really scared me, and I just I was afraid everyone would find out about it, and I would, lose my career. At 10 years old, I'm worrying about my career. Once again, Amber, I need to be retired. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so I want to know how you sort of, before I ask how you transitioned from child actor to voiceover actor, I want to know, how did you get into acting at a very young age? Did Sesame Street come along first? Was it the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh? How did it all start for you?
So it started off with my grandfather and the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. So
Ah,
my
right. Okay.
my grandfather was a cameraman for CBS Television City in Hollywood, for The Price is Right, and at the
Yeah.
time all the different programs they would do on CBS. So he was a cameraman, and he knew Sterling Holloway, the voice of Winnie the Pooh, and so Sterling Holloway asked my grandfather, "Does your grandson do a British accent?" And my dad and my grandfather are from Oklahoma, so what do they know about a British accent? And I'm 6 years old, so what do I know? Well, they worked with me for weeks trying to get me to do a British accent, and I always say I made Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins sound wonderful. I was horrible, but because I had Mr. Holloway's blessing, I won the audition, and so I started appearing on Storyteller Records
Well, that's
and
awesome.
doing Christopher Robin. I couldn't even read at the time; they had to whisper my lines to me.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Right?
And so was Sesame Street sort of like an open audition, or were you specifically scouted for it?
They had scoured agents across, both in Los Angeles and in Chicago. They're trying to get just normal children. A lot of their show was just normal local kids there in New York, but they wanted also to like fill the bill with seasoned, quote, seasoned actors as much as you can as a child. And so my agent got the call and went to New York and did a screen test, where they had us talking to the puppets. Again, I was at that same age, I was 6 and 7, and they liked my improv skills at 6 and 7. I really thought that, I remember Ernie was who I screen tested with, and I really thought he was real. And
Awesome.
I was just genuine. My exchanges with him are genuine. I was telling him a secret, and then of course he said he was going to blab it to the whole room, and I got really mad. So they thought that, I'm very expressive, and so they hired me. And in those days, one of the skits was is that Ernie had a big plate of cookies for Connor, and I'm up on a wall, and Ernie's behind the wall, and he says, "Hey, these are for my good buddy Connor. Connor, would you like some cookies?" And of course, I wanted cookies. Well, about the time I got them, I was going to get them, Cookie Monster jumped up and ate the whole damn tray and all the cookies.
Oh
And so
wow.
the camera would slowly zoom in on my little face of, really being upset because I didn't get a cookie. And they thought that was hilarious. So they did it with everything. They had banana pudding. They had put all kinds of things that I would go for. And like an idiot, I would fall for it every time. One of the other Muppets would jump up and eat it.
Oh
So
wow. Wow, that's so awesome though, honestly. And like, did you work with any celebrities like on Sesame Street? Because I presume they must have had like celebrities who dropped in and just guested on one episode or something like that. Did you
yeah, we
work with any
did.
celebrities or did you work just with the regular presenters?
Mainly the Muppets. And I do remember there was Stevie Wonder had visited, and I think there's several clips of him singing several songs. So I remember interacting with him a little bit on Sesame Street, and James Earl Jones, long before he was the voice of, well, I guess he had recorded for Darth Vader, but it hadn't been out yet. That was to be in May of '77. So
Yeah.
we didn't know him as the voice of Darth Vader. He was a, legend of Broadway and stage and screen. And nobody was thinking of him as Darth Vader yet. So uh, working with him was absolutely incredible.
That is awesome. That really is awesome. Now, the big part. I want to know how you exactly transitioned from child actor. Actually, no, hang on. I've got to ask you about Little House on the Prairie first. What was that like to work on?
Well, and that's there. That's also the key. Is so on Little House, it was awesome. It was like a family, like Sesame Street. So I was doing both at the same time. I would film 6 months of the year in L.A. We shot at Big Sky Ranch, which is north of L.A., about an hour north, and then half of the year, the rest of the year, I would spend in Manhattan shooting Sesame Street. So as a child, I was confused, flying one way to the other. So my favorite stores and restaurants, I'd be in New York and thinking they were there, and they're like, "Oh no, that's in LA." It's like, so it was confusing as a kid. But Little House was great. So anytime they needed scenes of us kids on the playground or in school or church, that's where we would fill. We're basically background extras and that type of thing. But it was great work because we got to, meet with Melissa Gilbert and those wonderful actors, Michael Landon and Real quickly, he said he got all of his kids together one day, and he was basically telling us that if you want to stay in Hollywood, you've got to find something else to do. And so he's looking around. He says, "I don't see any Elizabeth Taylors or James Deans. So when you guys get big, you're older, you're going to be big, fat, and ugly. So you're going to have to find something else to do." And well, I was just not having it. So I raised my hand, and he said, "Yeah, Connor." And I said, "Well, why are you here?" And everybody laughed. And he said, well, I help build the sets. I write, I produce, I direct. And oh, by the way, I'm also an actor. That's why I'm here. And he said, I'm just saying that, to be Hollywood, it's very tough. You probably need to find something else to do so that if acting doesn't work, you can still be in Hollywood. So when he was leaving that day, he went by me and, fluffed my hair and said, and you like to talk a lot. And I said, yeah, I do. And he says, well, I think you ought to be in voiceover. And so I told my agent, and she was like, I think that's brilliant. The first thing you did was a voiceover. And, as you transition into the teenage years, the geeky, strange time of your life, I think that's where we need to go is into voiceover, because I was not going to be a Paul Newman or, Robert Redford or whatever at that time. I was just going to be a normal guy. And she knew that. So she was like, I think you need to do voiceover. So that's how I got into voiceover. In 1987, I was 16 and went full time doing, tens of thousands of commercials, just tons and tons.
Wow, that is like, and then you did Gummy Bears, like,
I did. I
wow,
do. did
how?
did a few Gummy Bears, and I did just a few episodes. And at that time it was like you did a lot of ADR replacement voice if the actor couldn't come in and that sort of thing. So you would get like you would work as a basically an extra. So you weren't a featured voice, but it was enough to get you credit, and you would get SAG pay, and you could put that on your resume. And
Oh wow.
so it's funny at the time when there was no IMDb, so it wasn't until years later that I found out what episodes that I'm scheduled to be on. IMDb found I don't know how they found out a lot of stuff. The Sesame Street. They said I'm in one episode of Little House, which is, wrong. I was on there for like 5 years. So we did a lot of episodes, but we were never given credit. We were just kind of background. And same with a lot of the stuff that I did on the Gummy Bears or CBS Story Break with Frank Welker. A lot of those cartoons, I did background miscellaneous voices. So we were not credited. In Australia, they call it Walla. You're just kind of like doing miscellaneous
Yeah.
voices, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm having a look at the CBS story break you did. I mean, Michael Bell, I've met. Mona Marshall, I've not met, but I've had her on my show. Alan Oppenheimer, I've spoken to him before. Peter Renaday, I've met him.
Right.
Frank, of course, I've met him. Yeah, because CBS story break, I am. That was Southern Star. It was Hanna-Barbera Australia, I believe, who sort of worked on that
I think you're
the
right.
animation.
Yep. Very
Yeah.
good.
Oh my, it says the soundtrack was recorded at Buzzy's Recording. Now, do you remember working with a man called Andy Morris?
No, I do not remember that. I remember I can't remember if it was Buzzies or B&B. There was a guy named Jackson Kane. And he was in a lot of our sessions. So he may have been like the B unit, that handles
Yeah.
the non-celebrity voiceovers, which I definitely was. I was more the utilitarian at that time when I was just getting my teeth into it, before I started doing more mainstream stuff and the video games like Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that came along.
Yeah, yeah. And what was it? Bell Sound, did you ever work at Bell Sound, or was
I
that
did.
like
Yep. I worked at Bell Sound. It was such a blur
oh,
because in those days as a child, you didn't drive, you were driven. So my conception of, where things were, I just know that I needed to get there. A lot of voiceovers today complain about, you get a 20 auditions from your agent and it's just, oh, it's a lot of work. That's nothing. In LA, you had to go from your home, you had to drive in LA traffic to your agent's office to do auditions, or then go to a studio to record. It was all day just to drive. So that's why there's stories out there about like Don LaFontaine riding in a limo, because it wasn't ego. The whole reason he had a limo was because in LA at that time, nobody would a ticket, a double parked limo because of all the celebrities. So he was driven around in a limo so he could go in and record and get back in the limo and get to the next place. It was all about making money.
I think Frank Welker actually did a similar thing. Like he would sleep in the limo, in the back of the limo, like on the way to jobs and stuff like that. And
I could see Frank do that. I mean,
he was
yeah,
doing like
totally
five
inventive.
jobs at recording sessions a day like that.
Oh,
Like it's
yeah.
crazy.
I mean, he was the Mel Blanc of the next generation. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
You
crazy.
know, there's so many I mean, if you look at his IMDb says, we're running out of room because Frank has so many credits. I mean, he's a walking legend in the voiceover industry, him and Peter both.
Yeah, definitely. And they're really nice guys, honestly.
Oh, absolute sweethearts.
Back to Bell Sound real quick. Do you remember working with a man called Rob Holt?
Rob Holt. That sounds familiar
Yeah,
at
he worked Bell Sound. He worked there.
Bell Sound. So I must have definitely worked with him. I don't recall. It's been so many years. I mean, you have to remember being a young kid. It was like meeting all these people and people would change on projects all the time.
Oh,
So just like as a kid, I've never seen one episode of Little House. Um,
wow.
because I was too busy working at the time be watching it. And that was the other thing I couldn't figure out as a child. I'd ask my mom, why does someone recognize me? They might recognize me from Little House or Sesame Street. I couldn't figure that out because those people weren't there when we were filming. And she had to explain that that's what television's about. They're watching you on just like what you watched the $6 Million Man, but you weren't out there when Lee Majors was recording that stuff. So, uh
Yeah.
I was a special kid. That's why I'm an actor. I don't have much intelligence, I think.
Yeah, yeah. The reason why I brought up Rob Holt is because like when I first reached out to him, we had like this lovely conversation, and then he told me oh yeah, do you know a guy called Bob Holt, the voice actor? And I was like,
Oh, of
yeah.
course. Yeah, Robert Holt, Bob Holt. I worked with him many times. Is he related to him?
Rob Holt is his son. It's
Oh my
Bob
gosh, I
Holt's
didn't
son.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked. Yeah, Bob was terrific, and of course, did many, many projects for Disney. In fact, I remember storyteller record for the Buena Vista label on Disney Records. Then we were doing "It's a Small World," and Bob Holt was one of the interviewers. You're one of the
Wow.
guys talking about it. So, what a he was in the Rescuer. I mean, he did so much stuff. Bob Holt is incredible.
I know he did everything like bed knobs and broomsticks and just like
Yes,
all these different Disney things and then
right.
he was at the convention that I was at, the TF Con, and he actually got to, because like he was a VIP there because he was there with Jerry Hauser, because they used to run like a Hauser Holt, which is a voiceover workshop
Oh, of
together.
course. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what. Yeah, yeah, and
Oh my gosh. So the connections, yes, absolutely. I mean,
Frank, yeah, Frank knew his dad, was very close friends with his dad. Like one time he was on the radio, he's like, "Yeah, my good friend Bob Holt" or something like that. But yeah, they got a
oh
photo
my
together. I've
God.
just messaged it you on Twitter. That's them now. That was them. Yeah,
That is so amazing.
I
Absolutely
know.
amazing. And you were impeccable with your history. It's right on spot.
I know. Honestly, it's like I'm a walking encyclopedia,
You
and it
are.
scares
You
me.
are. Yep. I no, I think it's wonderful.
Oh yeah, honestly, I think it's crazy. I really do. Um, so sort of transitioning into the modern world now.
Mhm.
Whenabouts did you move out of Los Angeles and to Oklahoma City?
So, and about 10 years ago, I just had really got fed up with LA traffic and I'd been out there since I was 6 years old and just to go somewhere was just a pain. And I got fed
Yeah.
up. So my partner and we moved to Oklahoma where, you know, as I'm talking to you, I'm looking out my window and of the studio and there's a cow, she's chewing her cud. And that's a lot better than the 405 and smog. I do miss
Wow.
LA. I have to go back, for Disney and for some of the other big clients to record. Uh, and I do love it, but it's just, I really love being outside of Oklahoma, or I mean, outside of LA. And, you know, property is fairly cheap in comparison to LA. And you just meet regular people. They open doors for you. They smile, they wave, it's like growing up in Mayberry.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, that's just reminded me when I was out in LA, like I'm not sure if you remember working with a woman called Noelle North, but she was a regular on
Yeah,
Gummy Bears. She voiced
she
Cutler
was
and
on.
Cubby. Yeah.
Yep, I did several episodes. I know that Noelle was on those episodes. I remember that. Her
Oh
and
my.
Lorenzo, her and Lorenzo Music.
Yeah, yeah. It's like like we I met her as well. Like we did like the Warner Brothers studio tour, and then we did I'm trying to think what else we did. Yeah, we did the TF con together, and I'm pretty sure there's a photo somewhere of me, Rob Holt, my dad, and Noel. I'm
Oh
just trying to
wow.
find it for you. Yeah, I'm just trying to find it for you right now. Here it is. I do excuse the poor quality. It was take. I can't remember who sent it me. I don't even know where it's from.
Right, right.
But there's a. I've just sending them over to you. If you just check your Twitter DMs, I drop them there for you. Funny.
I will do that. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a really lovely convention. That was, and I hope I can do
Yeah,
it
I loved
again.
hearing about all your travels. I mean, that's great that you're blogging on those and your vlog. I mean, it's just I look forward to it. It's great because I
I
don't have
know.
much time to travel for leisure. And even though, like as we talked about, this is more for work, but still, voiceover, I don't perceive it as work. It's just not work. It's my life. It's what I do. It's what I am.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's just really cool. I just it's just awesome, and especially like because of me potentially going out to um abroad sort of like middle of this year. I can't remember whether I've mentioned it or not, but if I have, I apologize. I'm not sure if I mentioned it out public. um, but just if it's it's business stuff like that, but you also get a free holiday out of it because you get to go abroad.
Absolutely. I mean, without a doubt at all. And I would love for uh to go to the UK. I have not been. It's been many years since I've been to London or anywhere in the UK, actually.
Oh, nice. There's some spots that you've got to avoid, but
Right. Well, same in the US, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, when we went to LA, there was some places that I avoided, and I suppose it was for
Yes.
the best. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, hands down.
yeah, and yeah, just everywhere I visited though was just absolutely amazing. I had such
I
a
could
lovely
tell.
time.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
joy exudes for every post that you did.
Oh yeah, definitely. I gotta ask about Kingdom Hearts. Now, tell me about your time on that because obviously, um, IMDb tells me that you voiced Smee and Mickey Mouse, but I presumed they were just ADR tracks.
They were, and at the time, when we did that, again, I was mainly a pickup artist for Kingdom Hearts, and I remember when that came out, or when the project came out, we voiced a lot of different things, and so at that time, again, there was no IMDb. I was paid for quite a few sessions, and I had no idea what they would use if they would use anything. And to be honest with you, I didn't remember doing Mickey Mouse. I know that I did, but I don't remember what bits we were doing. At the time, Wayne Allwine, who passed away from complications of diabetes, I believe, he was in and out. He was ill. I remember when we were doing that. I want to say it was 2000, I think 2001, something around there, and he had his ups and down days of doing that. So they were having us voice, some things for Mickey, but I didn't think they used me. I don't think they used my voice. It wasn't until IMDb came out that then, here comes my profile and it puts that I did Mickey Mouse. So I think there was a compilation of various voiceovers that did Mickey, in placement of ADR for Wayne. And I know I did a lot of pickups for Smee, and that's just part of the game. That's just part of the voiceover industry. But I was surprised at Mickey Mouse because I'm not known for doing Mickey Mouse. That's for definite sure.
It's hidden talent.
All
I was gonna say
right.
because like I was at a panel with Frank Welker and like he was showing everyone how to do Soundwave's voice and then he just suddenly bursts out with Mickey Mouse. I'm like, bro. It
Yeah,
was
I
so
don't think there's a voice that Frank can't do. I mean, he of course he's done basically every male voice on Scooby Doo, and back in the Jetsons, I've heard him do almost all the characters, a lot of Mel Blanc's characters. He's just an all around great voice. I mean, a mimic, uh, perfect. If you talk to him, he could do your voice back to you, if he's listening carefully and not having a lot of stuff to do. He's just a natural mimic and just so incredible. Just like Phil Hartman was that way. Phil was a good friend of mine and very talented, and his talent just went so much beyond what he was known for. Saturday Night Live and um, the TV show about radio, but he was just an incredible natural talent. I have to really work at mine. I have to, you know, I have to really study and that sort of thing. I go to bed every night listening to people's demos and studying what's latest, the hot sounding type of voice right now. And if I try to get a voice, I like right now in my car, if you're riding along with me, if we get in my car, it's all MP3s of different voices that I find interesting that I want to work on. That's my life is studying voices.
Wow. Yeah, and it's just that actually reminds me. I do apologize. I turned up like 2 minutes late to our meeting, mainly because yeah, something unfortunate happened. The guy who's working on my demo, unfortunately, lost all the assets. So I've had to resend him all my stuff, and I'm not
Oh my
angry or anything. It's
gosh.
just I know the
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It happens in this day and age. There's been times I've had to record a session on my end and there was a glitch and we had to reschedule and we had recorded for like 45 minutes. I feel horrible, you know. Uh Unfortunately, me and technology, I should have been, like I told you earlier, I should have been born in the 20s for God's sake.
Yeah, yeah, and just it's just honestly like my head just completely blanked, and I have completely forgotten what we were speaking about.
Well, our last meeting, I completely forgot. I thought it was, or not forgot. I misunderstood it and was thinking it was an hour later. So I felt horrible too because I'm very punctual. I'm not that guy, but I sure as heck was the last time we tried to do this.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, because I was away. I mean, I wouldn't have mind going back up to my hotel room and just doing it from there. But
That would have been cool. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, I've never done like an episode of my show away from home, but I would really love to do that,
Really.
like an
Well, I would have
in-person
been,
conversation. Yeah.
yeah, I would have been honored, Amber.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I wish we did make that happen, not to be fair.
Right?
Uh, yeah, yeah. What is what is or who is essentially what is your favorite brand that you've ever done work for, like voiceover work?
Probably
I know
my
that's going
favorite.
to be quite hard to answer,
It
but
is, they're like, I know they always say proverbial is like children, but um of course, everything Disney is always, that is without saying. Disney is probably my favorite um brand. And it's second to that would be Crayola. I've been with Crayola for almost 20 years. And Sesame Street, I really enjoy that. Other ones I've done is I did Visa. I was the voice of Visa for many years after Ed Grover, and Visa is close to my heart as well. So it's hard to choose one, Amber. That was like, if you were a tree, what tree would you be? That's a tough question.
uh the next tree.
You're right.
And
And a live tree. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Uh an apple tree. An apple tree.
Oh, an apple tree. There you go. Yeah,
Well, it's like
absolutely.
anything, anything, a tree that just grows anything, any sort of food tree.
Anything that would bear fruit. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
pretty
I'm
much.
right there
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, because
I'm
it
right there
takes
with
time
you.
to show off my sweetness.
Well, same with me. You have to get past the
Yeah,
exterior.
mutual feelings, mutual feelings. I've actually got to ask you now about your connection to Charlie Chaplin and Orson Welles because I've
So,
just read that and I was like, hmm.
yep, I have a so when I was a kid, so I was 7 or 8, and they had hired me for, I remember we were shooting on the Paramount lot. It was a commercial for Reese's for Halloween.
Mhm.
And you have to remember I was 7 or 8 years old. the guy that was on the commercial with me was in, there was other kids as well, was Orson Welles.
Oh
And
wow.
right, but I didn't know who he was, so I was not excited about it at all. My dad was very excited, but I could care less. Uh, so anyway, as he was meeting us, I went up to him and I just said, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're fat. And my dad about died. And Orson says, no, I had no idea. Nobody's ever told me that I'm fat. And I
Oh
said,
my
well,
God.
well, you are. And he goes, well, Connor, I am glad that you told me. And by the way, is this the Connor Quinn? And I go, of course, yes, I am the Connor Quinn. He was placating me, but I was, as a kid, I was just nonplussed. I was just not having it. And he
Yeah.
said, well, it's an honor to meet you, sir. And he stuck out his hand. Well, no guy had ever shook in my hand. I'm 8 years old. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool. So I put my little hand in his, and it was like a whale and a fish. He shook my hand and he says, now you can say you've shook in the hand of a man who shook the hand of Sir Charles Chaplin. And I didn't know who Charlie
Wow.
Chaplin was. My dad was sitting there dying in the corner of the room. And, as I get older, of course, I cringe thinking of what I said to Orson, but what a wonderful man. He gathered up, there's a lot of downtime, filming. And so he gathered us children around. He was a magician. So he did a little magic show for us and he taught us like two tricks. And he was telling us, uh, two Halloween tales in his big voice, telling, scaring us kids, telling us these Halloween tales that he either made up or, I don't know where the hell he got them, but that was my connection to Charlie Chaplin and Orson Welles. So by whatever they call 6 degrees of bacon or whatever, Kevin Bacon, whatever, you are
Yeah.
now 1 degree separated from Charlie Chaplin, or two degrees from Charlie Chaplin, 1 degree from Orson Welles. And you're connected with Frank Welker. So I don't know if that's a zero connection or yeah, that's a zero connection. We both are connected to Frank, but
Yeah.
you can now say that you're 2 degrees away from Charlie Chaplin and 1 degree away from Orson Welles.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the Oracle of Bacon right now, which is a website where you can hook up any
Oh my
celebrity with
gosh, I didn't know
any
that. Okay.
celebrity. I'm trying to find you to you have a Frank Welker number of 2.
I actually have of one, which I think we worked together on CBS Story Break, but probably it would be my connection would be through Corey Burton, I would imagine.
Well, it says here Connor Quinn was in The Clean Club with Will Ryan, who was in Looney Tunes Back in Action with Frank Welker. I do miss Will Ryan, to be fair.
There we go. Yeah, Will Ryan, what a wonderful man. Yep,
I
absolutely.
know. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah. The Clean Club was Churchill Films. Very bizarre. Uh, I was right after I went full time doing the Clean Club. So, and I think Corey is on that too. I think Corey did the Clean
Yeah,
Club.
it's another one was in The Clean Club with Corey Burton, was in a Goofy movie with Frank Welker.
There we go. There you
And
go.
literally the only people that sort of connect it are just Will and Corey that connect you to Frank.
Right. Yeah, and if I remember, also in Clean Club was Patricia Albright.
Yes, Pizzazz from Jen.
Mhm. Yeah, there you go. Oh
Wow.
my God, there's no fooling you,
I
Amber.
mean, I've met Stormer, Sue Blue herself, so
Right?
yeah.
Yep. Oh, the legend. Yep. Susan
Oh,
Blue.
just so many people I've just
Oh, I know. And
met
such
and
a
just
it's a small world. Like Disney had it
after
right. So
all,
did the Sherman Brothers. Yeah, it's a small world after all.
I can't believe they named a phrase after a ride. That's magical.
Right? It is magical.
I
That is the
love it.
Disney way.
This has
My
been
favorite.
prob No, go ahead. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say real quick. My favorite Disney quote was some little boy stopped him in Disneyland before he died and asked him, uh, "Who are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm Walt Disney." And he goes, "So what do you do?" And Disney thought for a minute. He goes, "Oh, did you draw Pinocchio or Mickey Mouse?" And he goes, "Well, I don't currently draw them." He goes, "I'm kind of like a bee. I just go around making sure everyone's doing their job. That's what I do." And he goes, "That sounds really boring." And Disney thought that was a heck of a quote. That was cool.
Oh yeah,
But there you
definitely.
go.
Just honestly, this is probably like the chillest in conversation with ATF. Like to
Really?
me, it doesn't even feel like an interview at this point. It just feels like more of a casual conversation, which is what I do aim for with my show.
I love it. Yeah, you're very relaxed, and yeah, I enjoy this, Amber. It was absolutely phenomenal that you had me on your show. As you would say in UK, it's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly. Connor, have you got any social media pages that you'd like to promote? Where
uh,
can we find you
I,
online?
yeah, I'm so hard to find, but I am on Twitter, uh, Connor Quinn VO. I'm also, not that everyone does it, but I'm on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel, so just Google Connor Quinn voiceover and you'll find me. But other than that, I don't have time for social media. I'm just so busy. You know, I get in the studio about 5 a.m. and I'm here most of the day up until probably like 10 o'clock at night. So
Wow. Busy,
I
busy,
live
busy.
to be voiceover. That's basically what I do.
Ooh, that's very interesting. Well, in that
Right?
case, we're gonna have to do a part two someday. We really are gonna have to do a part two.
Right. I haven't partied in, yeah, since before disco was popular. There
Oh
you
yeah.
go. I'm old.
Well, Connor, thank you so much for joining me on my show, and to you at home, thank you so much for listening in. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did filming it. Um, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you again, Connor.
Thank you.
And to you at home, take care. Bye and cut.